Hey guys, let's be real. Some survival products are just plain dumb. Not because people who buy them are dumb, but because the people selling them think you are. They slap on big promises, throw in military buzzwords, jack up the price, and hope you won't notice that the thing is either useless, overpriced, or breaks the second you actually need it. And guess what? People still buy them, every single day. From gear that looks good in ads but fails in real life, to items that are supposed to save your life but can't even survive a light rain. These are the products smart preppers know to avoid. The sad part? Some of these are sitting in your go bag right now, taking up space, wasting your money, and giving you a false sense of security. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on 12 survival products that no one should be buying unless they like throwing cash down the drain. No fluff, no fear-mongering, just real talk about what works and what's complete junk. And hey, if you're done falling for survival gear scams and want the stuff that actually works when it counts, hit that subscribe button now. We keep it honest. Number 1. Cheap, tactical flashlights from big box stores. You've seen them. Flashlights labeled tactical, with bold claims like 1000 lumens, military-grade aluminum, zoom focus, and strobe mode. They're in hardware stores, gas stations, online ads, and they're almost always dirt cheap. But here's the problem. They're garbage. These flashlights look rugged, but most are made with low-grade plastic or thin aluminum that bends or cracks after a short drop. The buttons get sticky, the zoom function jams, and worst of all, they drain batteries like crazy. Some don't even give you half the brightness they promise, especially after the first few uses. Most of these lights run on AAA batteries or off-brand rechargeables, and they're poorly regulated. That means you get uneven brightness, flickering, and in some cases they overheat or short out. That's not just annoying, that's dangerous in an emergency when you're counting on a reliable light source. The worst part? Many of these are bundled in multi-packs or survival kits online, which makes people feel like they're getting value. But when the power's out and you're left fumbling in the dark, that cheap light suddenly becomes a huge liability. If you're serious about preparedness, skip these flashy gimmicks and invest in reliable, brand-name flashlights with known performance. Brands like Phoenix, Olight, or Streamlight may cost more upfront, but they'll last, they'll perform, and they'll actually turn on when you need them most. Don't fall for the tactical marketing hype. Flashlights aren't just accessories, they're one of your primary survival tools. Choose like your safety depends on it, because one day, it will. Number 2. No-name power banks with inflated capacity claims. Power banks are one of the most popular prep items out there, and it makes sense when the lights go out. Your phone is your last link to the outside world. But here's the problem. A huge number of the power banks being sold online, especially the no-name or off-brand models, are completely lying about their capacity. You'll see listings claiming 20,000 milliamp hours, 30,000 milliamp hours, or even 50,000 milliamp hours, all for the price of a meal. But when do you actually use them? They can barely charge your phone once or twice. Some units don't even hold a charge for more than a few days in storage. And worse, some will overheat, shut down randomly, or just die the first time you actually need them. The build quality is usually terrible. Cheap plastic casings, unreliable circuit boards, and zero internal protections. No temperature regulation, no overcharge protection, and definitely no real warranty. And let's be real, in a blackout or grid down situation, the last thing you want is a power bank that can't even get you through the night. A lot of people buy these because they look good in ads and have high star ratings that are often fake. They'll say solar charging, but that little panel on top? It's decorative. It would take 3-4 days in direct sunlight just to charge 10%. If you want a power bank that actually works, stick with reputable brands Anchor, RavPower, Goal Zero, or even EcoFlow if you're going big. Look for real reviews, tested specs, and honest customer feedback. Your electronics are only as good as the power you can give them. Don't put your emergency communications in the hands of a $12 mystery brick, because when the grid fails, there's no second chance. Either your power bank works or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you're just another person in the dark with a dead phone and no way out. Number 3. Basic first aid kits with nothing useful. Go to any store or search online for emergency first aid kit, and you'll find hundreds of options. Bright red cases, 120-piece kits, or trauma-ready packs. But here's the catch. Most of these kits are 99% filler and 1% function. They're loaded with Band-Aids, alcohol wipes, and maybe a pair of tweezers. That's it. These kits look impressive on paper. They brag about high piece counts, 100, 200, even 300 items. But dig inside and you'll find 50 adhesive bandages, 20 cotton swabs, and a handful of gauze pads barely big enough to cover a paper cut. There's no tourniquet, no clotting agent, no compression bandage, nothing that helps in a real emergency like bleeding, burns, or fractures. In a real survival scenario, you're not treating paper cuts. You're dealing with falls, burns from cooking over open flames, cuts from tools, dehydration, and infection risk from minor wounds. A good first aid kit should help you stabilize until help arrives, or until you can get to help. The worst part? Many people toss these low-quality kits into their bug-out bags thinking they're covered. But when something serious happens, and all you have is 30 tiny band-aids and a glove that tears when you put it on, you're in trouble. What you need is a trauma-focused kit with pressure dressings, antiseptics, burn gel, a CPR mask, tweezers, medical tape, and ideally, a basic guide for emergencies. Better yet, build your own. Buy components individually and customize it to your family's actual needs, allergies, chronic meds, kids, or pets. Prepping isn't about having a red bag with a white cross. It's about having what works when things go wrong. Skip the fluff. Stock real tools. Because when someone you care about is bleeding or in pain, your first aid kit should be more than decoration. Number 4. Mylar blankets from dollar stores. You've seen them everywhere, those shiny, folded emergency blankets packed in tiny plastic pouches. They promise to retain body heat, block wind, and save lives. And best of all, they're cheap, often just $1 or $2. But here's the truth. Most of these dollar store Mylar blankets are more gimmick than gear. Sure, in theory, they reflect 90% of your body heat. But in practice, these things tear like tissue, make tons of noise, and are nearly impossible to keep wrapped around you, especially in wind, rain, or while you're moving. And once they rip, which happens fast, they become almost useless. Most people imagine these as warm, reliable backups for cold nights or emergency shelters. But if you've ever actually tried sleeping with one in a survival setting, you know the reality. They slide off, crinkle like a chip bag, and trap condensation. You wake up wet, cold, and annoyed. And let's be clear, not all Mylar blankets are bad. Quality versions from reputable brands like SOL, Survive Outdoors Longer, are reinforced, reusable, and big enough to actually wrap around an adult. But the ultra-thin ones from bargain bins? They'll give you a false sense of security. You think you're covered until the cold hits, and suddenly you're fighting with a shredded piece of foil. These dollar store blankets are fine as a last-ditch backup, but they shouldn't be your plan A. If you're prepping for a real cold, you need proper insulation, wool blankets, sleeping bags rated for low temperatures, or high-end bivy sacks. Mylar should be the extra layer, not the only one. And remember, packaging doesn't equal performance. Just because it says emergency survival doesn't mean it's going to keep you alive. If your survival plan includes dollar store Mylar as your primary defense against the cold, it's time to rethink that plan. Because when the temperature drops and your gear fails, you don't get a second shot at staying warm. Number 5. Knockoff life straws from discount sites. Water is survival. You can go weeks without food, but only a few days without water, and in an emergency, clean water disappears fast. That's why personal water filters like LifeStraw became insanely popular. They're simple, compact, and claim to turn dirty stream water into drinkable safety. But here's the trap. Not all filters are created equal, and those cheap knockoff LifeStraws flooding discount websites? They're not just useless, they could be dangerous. Scroll through any online marketplace and you'll find dozens of lookalikes. They use the same blue plastic, same packaging, and even copy the exact claims. Filters 1,000 liters, removes 99.999% of bacteria, perfect for survival. But what they don't tell you, most have never been tested, have no certifications, and in some cases don't filter anything at all. Some are literally just hollow tubes. Others use low-grade mesh or unproven carbon filters that clog after 1 or 2 uses. In the best-case scenario, they stop working. In the worst case, you drink contaminated water thinking you're safe and end up sick, dehydrated, or worse. The danger is in the illusion. You throw one of these knockoffs into your bug-out bag thinking you've checked the box on water. But when disaster hits and you're relying on it to drink from a lake, creek, or questionable source, it fails, and by the time you realize it, it's already too late. Real filters go through lab testing. They meet NSF or EPA standards. They come with flow rate ratings, pore sizes, and clear manuals. Knockoffs skip all of that. They bank on price, not performance. Here's the test. If a LifeStraw-style filter costs under $10 and has zero branding or customer support, that's a red flag. A real one will cost more, but it'll work. Brands like LifeStraw, Sawyer, and HydroBlue aren't just selling plastic, they're selling reliability. And that matters when your life's on the line. You don't need 10 cheap filters. You need one that works every time. Clean water isn't optional, and betting your health on a $5 knockoff is a mistake you can't afford. Number 6. Pre-made emergency food buckets with mystery meals. They look like the ultimate prepping shortcut. Big plastic buckets, bold claims like 2,000 calories per day, or feeds a family of 4 for a month, and shelf lives of 20+ years. Sounds perfect, right? Until you open one up and realize you just paid hundreds of dollars for powdered disappointment. Pre-made emergency food buckets are one of the biggest survival gear traps out there. Most are packed with cheap fillers like sugar, rice, and powdered potatoes, and almost no real protein. The meal names sound fancy: cheesy broccoli rice, creamy chicken pasta, or hearty chili mac. But there's no actual chicken, no real cheese, and often no recognizable ingredients at all. Worse, serving sizes are misleading. That 1 month supply? Read the label. It's often based on tiny portions, 800 to 1,200 calories a day, far below what your body needs in a stressful survival situation. You think you're getting 30 days of food, but in reality it's more like 10 to 15 days of light snacks. And don't get started on taste. In a crisis, morale matters, and eating bland, gluey mush day after day will wear you down fast. The marketing is slick, the packaging is clean. But once you dig in, most buckets fall short nutritionally and practically. If you're serious about food storage, build your own supply with real foods. Canned meat, freeze-dried vegetables, rice, beans, oats, spices, peanut butter, powdered milk. You'll get better nutrition, more variety, and actual control over what you're putting in your body. Or, if you want long shelf life and convenience, go with trusted brands like Mountain House or ReadyWise, but read every label and focus on calories per day, grams of protein, and actual ingredients. In survival, food isn't just fuel, it's what keeps your mind sharp and your body moving. Don't stake your energy on mystery meals that look good on the outside and leave you starving inside. Number 7. Crank radios with fake NOAA alerts. Emergency radios are a must-have in any survival kit. When the grid goes down and your phone has no signal, a good radio can keep you connected to weather updates, rescue info, and local alerts. But here's the trap: a lot of the cheap crank radios flooding the market today are little more than flashy paperweights. You'll see them everywhere online. Small radios with hand cranks, solar panels, flashlight attachments, and bold promises like NOAA Weather Ready. But dig deeper, and you'll find that most of them don't actually receive NOAA alerts or any alerts clearly at all. They slap on the NOAA logo, but there's no real tuner, no proper reception, and definitely no official certification. The crank handle? Often flimsy plastic that breaks or jams within the first few uses. The solar panel? So weak it takes all day to add 10 minutes of power. And the battery? Cheap cells that barely hold a charge and die fast, especially when stored long-term. Worst of all, in an actual emergency, these radios may not pick up any clear signal at all. Static, low volume, or zero reception just when you need critical information most. Don't gamble with communication. When the power's out, your world shrinks fast. A good emergency radio is your lifeline to the outside. Invest in a reliable brand, Eaton, Midland, Kaito, or Sangean, and check for official NOAA certification, AM, FM, WB band coverage, and rechargeable battery backups. If it feels like a toy, it probably is. You don't need bells and whistles. You need clear reception, solid build quality, and backup power that works. Because when the storm hits, when evacuation orders drop, or when rescue efforts are mobilizing, your cheap crank radio shouldn't be the reason you're left in the dark. Number 8. Amazon survival kits in black zipper cases. You've definitely seen these slick-looking black zipper cases filled with all-in-one tactical survival tools. They're all over Amazon, sold under generic brand names, usually with some wild product title like 35-in-1 Elite Emergency Survival Kit. They look impressive, come with dozens of small gadgets, and claim to cover everything from fire starting to fishing. But in reality, these kits are packed with junk. Let's break it down. The case usually includes a tiny folding knife, a wire saw, a flint striker, a whistle, a flashlight, a keychain compass, and maybe some fishing hooks. It sounds like a great deal until you try using any of it. Weak sparks if you're lucky. The flashlight runs on watch batteries and is dim at best. The compass spins aimlessly and isn't calibrated for anything real. You get the idea. None of these tools are field tested. They're mass-produced, assembled into these zipper kits to hit a price point and look good in product photos. But when you're in an actual survival situation trying to stay warm, navigate terrain, or signal for help, this kit does nothing but waste your time. The real danger is psychological. People buy these kits thinking they're set. They toss them in their car or go bag, feel prepared, and never actually test the tools. But when it matters most, that false sense of readiness can cost lives. Instead of buying a pre-packed gimmick, spend the same money building your own kit. Buy a quality folding knife, a real ferro rod, a reliable flashlight with common batteries, and a compass you can actually trust. Piece by piece, you'll create something that works and that you can depend on when everything else fails. Don't be fooled by fancy packaging. A zipper case full of junk is still junk. And when your life's on the line, you don't want to unzip false hope. Number 9. LED lanterns that use odd batteries. At first glance, LED lanterns seem like a smart addition to your survival setup. Bright, lightweight, often collapsible, they check a lot of boxes. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find one of the biggest flaws hidden inside. They run on obscure batteries you won't have when it matters. CR123S, 18650S, button cells. You name it, some of these lanterns use batteries that are expensive, hard to find, and nearly impossible to stockpile in large quantities. Sure, they might boast long run times or high lumen output, but when the power's out and your last specialty battery dies, that fancy lantern turns into a paperweight. And here's the kicker. Most people don't even realize what kind of battery their lantern needs until it's already too late. They buy it online, it shows up pre-installed or half-charged, and they assume it's good to go. But during an actual blackout, when every second of light counts, they find out those batteries aren't sold at the local gas station or corner store. Another issue? Rechargeable-only models. If your lantern has no option for AAA or AAA backup and you don't have solar or generator support, you're stuck in the dark once the internal battery runs dry. That's not just inconvenient, that's dangerous in cold weather, storm conditions, or medical emergencies. The smart move? Stick with lanterns that run on common, easy-to-find batteries, AA or D-cell preferably. Even better, choose models that offer dual power options, battery or USB recharge. That way you're covered whether you've got a solar panel, power bank, or just a drawer full of Duracells. And don't get distracted by lumen numbers alone. 400 bright lumens are useless if your power source is rare or dead. Steady, dependable light is what keeps morale high and danger low in the dark. In survival, every detail matters, and the wrong battery can turn the right tool into dead weight. So next time you grab a lantern, check what's inside. Because in a crisis, the most powerful tool is the one that actually works when you need it most. Number 10. Gas masks with no extra filters. Gas masks look cool. Let's just admit it, they feel like the ultimate prepper accessory. You see them in survival ads, in doomsday shows, even on product thumbnails promising chemical protection, biological defense, and full-face security. But here's what most people miss. A gas mask without filters or with expired ones is just an overpriced Halloween prop. Most people buy gas masks online and never look beyond the mask itself. But the real protection comes from the filter cartridges, and they don't last forever. In fact, many of the ones sold with masks are already expired by the time they arrive. And once opened or used, they're only effective for a matter of hours, not days. Even worse, a lot of cheap gas mask listings online don't come with any spare filters, and some don't even use standardized filter sizes. That means if you need a replacement, you're out of luck, especially if you're stuck in a crisis with no shipping or store options. And let's be clear, using a gas mask isn't plug and play. If it doesn't fit your face properly, if it leaks around the seal, or if you haven't been trained in how to use it, it could give you a false sense of protection and put you in even greater danger. Prepping with gas masks is only smart if you know what you're doing. Buy quality models from reputable suppliers, and stock extra filters for real-world threats like smoke, particulates, or chemicals. Otherwise, you're better off investing that money into something more practical like air purifiers, N95 masks, or gear that'll actually serve a purpose in common disaster scenarios like wildfires or chemical spills. Because in survival, gear that only looks the part is worse than useless. It's misleading. And the last thing you want in a real emergency is to realize your high-tech mask is nothing but a plastic face cover with no protection. Let's be real, prepping isn't about hoarding shiny tools or buying everything labeled tactical. It's about having gear that actually works when it matters. And as you've seen in this list, there's a lot of survival junk out there that looks useful, but won't do a thing for you in a real emergency. From flimsy flashlights to fake filters, these products are more about marketing than survival. And that's the danger, because the more you rely on bad gear, the less prepared you actually are when the grid goes down or crisis hits. And when you find out something doesn't work, it's already too late. So now's the time to go back and check your own stash. Look at what you've bought, test it, replace the junk. Because being ready doesn't mean owning more gear, it means owning the right gear. And if you made it this far, chances are you're not here to waste time or money on survival toys. So if you want honest breakdowns and real tools that won't fail you when it counts, hit that subscribe button now. We're cutting through the hype and keeping you one step ahead. Stay smart, stay sharp, and prep for real.